provide the recording after the meeting along with all the meeting notes. And for the ones who don't talk, it would be lovely if you could mute your microphones. So just some quick housekeeping. As you probably all know, the IAB Tech Lab is a nonprofit consortium that engages a member community globally to develop foundational technology and standards that enable growth and trust in the digital media ecosystem. And how do they do this? Mostly with the help of working groups. The IAB Tech Lab has a variety of working groups, like the Open Measurement Working Group, the Podcast Technical Working Group, and so on. All those groups are owned by a product owner, and they develop with the help of community solutions. Some working groups have a more technical background with developer, product owners, and other technical leads as members, while other working groups have more the purpose to set the legal framework with the help of publisher, buyer, and platform communities, consumer advocacy, and other international bodies. In those working groups, they discuss problems, try to find solutions, and develop standards. They often work with proposals, so members can join forces, write a proposal with the solutions. The product owner reviews that proposal and releases it to discuss in the following. If the proposal is accepted in discussion, it will be part of the standard or the technical solution later. And what we are doing here in the communication groups. In this communication groups, you will get first information from the related IAB Tech Lab working groups. Everything we show and tell you here is open for discussion. We also provide you Google Drive with the presentations, the recording of the meeting, general Google Doc with all the informations, and of course the meeting notes. You can add comments there or ask questions, and it's a great opportunity for members who miss a meeting so that they can keep up to date. And in the end, we hope we can motivate you to join the working groups and to connect you with your European colleagues that work on similar solutions. So let's start with the Ctv updates. Sorry. Yeah, the Carell Group approved to develop 3 more SDKs for CTV. It is the tvOS SDK, the Android TV SDK, and the Roku SDK. But before they can start developing or releasing this SDKs, they have to update the Open Measurement Usage License, which is in progress right now. They will begin to work with the tvOS and Android TV SDK because they are quite similar to the iOS and Android mobile SDKs that they already support. And also Roku joined the working group, and they will evaluate development in the second half of 2021. Just a quick overview what the Open Measurement SDK for CTV is. It's a single integration for developers to enable measurement by leading third-party providers, which brings measurement to scale and consistency to CTV. Just a quick overview how this works. Well, I just created this lovely little picture on the left, where you can see that the player notifies the OM SDK that an ad session has started. The OM SDK creates an OM RP associated with the ad, and the OM SDK injects the measurement provider tag into the ad. So the measurement provider tag sends then the impression signal to the service. Its subsequent events and the availability data are reported at the same way. The benefits, of course, they replace multiple verification SDK integrations. It increases the access to supply and provides flexibility for buyers, and it provides transparency, consistency, and dependability for measurement metrics. They're also working right now on a content taxonomy update. For those of you who don't know the content taxonomy, it's an easy and consistent way for publishers to organize the website content, and it simply categorizes page content and does not on its own reveal about information about users. And right now they are writing the updates to support more common TV and movie genres. The next 2 slides we can skip because I just talked to Shailley and he prepared the exact same topic for us. So Shailley, over to you.
Thank you, Hakim, and welcome everyone. Just a quick correction from your earlier slide. Roku has not joined the working group yet, but their product and engineering team has been collaborating with us in determining what needs to be done to have an SDK, one SDK for Roku. and all the designs and everything has been finalized. It's just we are waiting for the, like Hakeem said, the licensing agreement, and then making resources available for the development.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. So just a quick, I just wanted to take like a few minutes to talk about a new product initiative that we launched this year and called the Programmatic Guides. And the first one that we're going to release pretty soon in this quarter is the one focused on the CTV and the video delivery. So Programmatic Guides were designed based on a lot of questions that we used to get from people about which standard applies, or how do I use a particular standard for a specific use case. And we found that the users are really focused on delivering a video ad, and it takes multiple standards to accomplish that, different aspects of video delivery. So that's how we came up with this idea of designing programmatic guides, and they're designed with different audiences in mind, right? Starting from the buyer right up to the engineer that is actually going to implement all the details. So the first section in all these guides will cover basically the use cases and very briefly just mention what standard applies to those use cases or should be used to accomplish those. So in a way, like a buyer could just, somebody at an agency who's not involved in the implementation details or at a brand could just read the first 2 or 3 pages and know everything that they need to know. And then the guides go into more details on each of those use cases and how they're actually accomplished, what part of the standard applies to them, with a little bit of snippets of the standard details, but then pointing to the actual standard for more details. We hope to release, like I said, this one, the first one, and then we'll have one for brand safety, one for ad fraud, and one for privacy before end of the year. So we plan to release 4. I am getting requests for a measurement one that we'll evaluate, because a lot of the measurement will get covered in the video. And we plan to have these as a living document. So they won't, like, you will have the PDF copy, but they won't be one-time release. As a new standard or a new version of a standard releases, we plan to make this as a standard procedure to go and update these programmatic guides based on the content therein. So yeah, that's just wanted to update everyone that this is coming, and please look out for this. I think this will be a very, very useful document for the use cases that we're building these for. Thank you.
Thank you, Shailley. Yeah, I already had the chance to take a look in the draft, and it's like very informative, very much knowledge compressed into a like very handy cookbook. So like, yeah, it will be like a standard for everyone who's into content TV in all the like publishers, ad servers, like for everyone. So next up, we can start with our panel discussion. Oliver, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, sure. So, and just to add to that, it's of course everybody can contribute to these kind of documents. So feel free to turn up to the IAB, the local IAB of your trust, or many of you are already direct members of Tech Lab. So you can join. If you don't know how to join, just write us an email and we'll take care of you. So I'm glad that we have a group. Unfortunately, an all-male panel, but diverse in another way. I will explain it in a second. So to have Shailley with me. Shailley is already introduced. So he's responsible for all products and global programs inside IAB Tech Lab, now acting as an interim CEO. Gijsbert is from Adjust. Adjust is one of the leading app and platform measurement suppliers in probably on the globe, coming from the app world, from the mobile to other channels such as the connected TV. He will explain that in a minute what happens and how they do that. Leander is managing director of a startup company, Nowtilus. They are active in SSAI, they are active in CTV, they are a technology service provider and also an enabling company. Interesting to see startup companies in that domain in Europe. So we will talk about the European market status in a minute, how it is, how we see it, how we evaluate it. And Sven Hagemeier is Director Inventory Partnerships with the Trade Desk. Everybody knows the Trade Desk. So demand side platform, technology service provider, technology provider for the buy side. And would be very, very interesting to learn about the buy side view on CTV. What are the issues there? What are the requests for all service suppliers and all publishers on that platforms? So starting with Sven, with you as the last one mentioned, if you can just have each of you a 1 minute elevator pitch. So what is your company doing in the CTV domain, and how do you regard and what are you doing by yourself, and how do you regard and evaluate the status of the European market? Are we far behind of the US market, or are we on eye level, and what are the threats? No, not to have too many questions into one, but if you can just have a 1 minute pitch about CTV and your minds on that.
All right, I'll try to fit it into 1 minute, and thanks for having me. So you mentioned everyone knows us. I don't know if everyone knows us. So we're a buy-side platform. So that means we enable ad buyers to make data-driven decisions in the digital ad campaigns, and this includes connected TV, obviously. So our clients are able to buy a lot of high-value connected TV across a lot of streaming offerings in Europe by traditional broadcasters like Channel 4, Sky in the UK and Germany, TF1, M6, ProSieben, RTL, Mediaset Spain, R2S Media, many more. And also of the new OTT-first publishers, as we would call them, such as Samsung TV Plus, Pluto TV, Rakuten TV, and more. And I think the status of connected TV in Europe is quite well, although still probably 3 years behind the US. Predominantly because there's different drivers in Europe that drive consumers towards connected TV, because in the US, it's been heavily driven by cord cutting and where you wanted to save cost by switching to streaming from broadcast or cable TV. Whereas in Europe, it's mostly about convenience and exclusive content. And that's, of course, a bit slower. This is why it takes consumers a bit longer to switch over to premium streaming offerings, and also broadcasters take a bit longer then to develop their offerings, their streaming offerings that are then attractive for advertisers to buy. But I believe we're on a very good path, and there's already huge opportunities in there for advertisers. We just need to grasp it. Okay.
So, well, three years behind as a guess, that are light years. Leander, over to you. What's your take? You're a newly joined Tech Lab member, so and as a startup company in that domain, is it technology apparently is important to you? Otherwise, you wouldn't have joined us, right? So, what is your take on the European CTV market?
Thank you, Oliver. Maybe some words to Nowtilus first. You're right. We are a startup with our server-side AI, SSAI platform, which we introduced last year to the market. Nowtilus itself already acts in the video and OTT streaming space since 2007. So in this regard, we are not so young, but we define ourselves definitely as a startup because what we're doing here is really tech-driven, AI-driven. So there's a lot of stuff coming together. We are working with companies on both markets, and both have issues. And we also need to differentiate or distinguish CTV because it looks different from use cases in the US compared to Europe. And Sven already explained this. In the US, the drivers really are the fast channels, and this is driven by the cord cutters, as said. So I just can underpin this or underline this. While in Europe, we differentiate CTV in offerings which are provided by operators and native OTT platforms who are trying to extend their existing IPTV offering. And we see a huge market opportunity also with HBB TV, which is quite a European game, and which is also completely a broadcaster game, because it's only possible to do HBB TV correctly if you are a broadcaster, if you control the DVB feed. And while I would say CTV on connected devices is more content issue, having not so attractive content here, and then it's a chicken and the egg. You have not the best content, you don't get so much demand from advertiser side, you don't have so much audiences watching it, while HBB TV, here you have existing reach. So really we talk about millions of viewers, so this is your DTH broadcast audience that you can attract as a broadcaster. But there's a lot of complexity in HBB TV, which we try to solve, since not only CTV standards need to be considered, but also DVB and HBB comes with a lot of political topics that need to be implemented correctly, both on the broadcaster side and on the device manufacturer side. And to overcome this is one of our missions that we're trying to achieve here in the next month and years.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that. So I guess we will unpack the complexity of your statement in the further discussion about the technical complexities of different platforms and usage situations. Gijsbert, over to you. So you're actually come from the 100% pure mobile world, right? So you're I guess the global leader in app tracking and app download measurement. At least that's how I know Adjust. So you're acting globally out of Berlin. And now, and I know that you are diving deep into CTV as well. Is that simply because if you want to measure a campaign over all platforms, you have to go everywhere where apps are, which is in essence also the TV set? What's your take on CTV actually?
Well, to answer your question, yes, that is exactly the case. So we're seeing that mobile app developers and mobile app marketers are moving into the CTV space and wanting to promote their mobile applications on CTV platforms. And obviously they are looking for measurement of that. And we are seeking ways to provide that measurement, particularly in maybe not so much as a source of user acquisition, but as one of the elements in the customer journey as a whole. So given the high prices of CTV advertising, what our clients are looking for is answers to questions such as, okay, if people have seen our ads, usually video ads on CTV, does that result in higher spending within the app? Does that result in better return rates, bigger LTV, so a lifetime value of these users? So that's one part. What we're also looking at, the mobile app developers are also moving into the CTV space in a different way, in a sense that they are trying to translate their app offering to the CTV platform. So they're starting to publish CTV apps. And this is a thing that is often overlooked because commonly CTV is associated with video content. But I've done some research and we see that particularly gaming is growing as a vertical on CTV. If you look at Roku in particularly, their gaming is I think if you look at the pure numbers, it's the second vertical. And obviously, app developers who do that also are looking for measurement. So they're also buying CTV advertising, and they want to measure the impact on their CTV apps. So that's the second angle, if you will, we're approaching this topic from. Yeah, we're providing measurement there as well.
Okay, thanks. Shailley, so would 3 years advantage, or US being 3 years ahead of Europe, be your guess as well? Since you are likely dealing with all the global platform providers on the technology side, yeah, already 4 years in the based in the US market, but on the other hand, we have to make sure that standards work globally. So what's your opinion on that situation of the comparison of the two regions, actually?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I hear the same sentiment that, I don't know exactly how many years ahead the markets are, but certainly CTV has been pretty popular here, especially with the pandemic and last year. And I remember like my first CTV show that I watched was in 2007, when Netflix had spun off like Roku, and they had come out for the first time. And within a year, like I kind of just stopped getting the CDs from Netflix a long time back. So I've been on CTV for like 14 years now. The here is pretty vibrant, like the number of services. I was just counting, like yesterday I was talking to a friend and he was asking about which shows are you watching, and I was like, I have like 7 services, CTV services for shows. And besides like YouTube, and I'm also watching the local news. That was something that was missing some time back, but I now see a lot of local news channels through the Samsung Smart TV and even through Roku that are now available. So it's pretty vibrant here, and like you said, that Europe's catching up in terms of the popularity. Platforms wise, I think we did some initial study when we were trying to figure out like which SDKs we should build for CTV last year. And what we found is the platform wise, it's kind of the similar or the same platforms across the 3 regions that we looked at, like the Americas, Europe, and APAC. So we came up with the same Android TV based devices, and then Roku, as well as the smart TVs like Samsung and LG kind of have their own platform. And a lot of the delivery there is actually a hybrid HTML web based environment.
Mm-hmm. So I'd like to talk first with you a bit about the business side. So what are the expectations of advertisers? What are the potentials of this channel? Not to be too marketing oriented, but look at the business from a technology point of view, and then we'll dive a bit deeper into technology threats and what is needed actually, and what we have to jointly develop in this segment. So Sven, from the demand side, would you agree saying the CPMs paid currently are higher because it's a new channel? So it is like, and it will go the normal way. So if there is more reach, then the CPMs will be in the end on eye level with all the other channels available. And on the other hand, the expectations of the demand side are the same as in every other channel. So what is your description if you look at CTV from the business perspective? Is it special, or is it just a bit behind in market development and will be the same in 3 years or 1 year?
I do think it's definitely special, and I don't think it has like across the way higher CPMs yet than, like, for example, the same content on a smaller device. So when you just like compare devices and for instance in Germany you watch I don't know, TV Now on a mobile device versus a Samsung Smart TV, usually the CPM is somewhat similar. Some publishers have started now to increase CPMs on the big screen simply because they assume that the brand impact is a bit higher there because you have a higher awareness that you are on the big screen. And I don't think that this is going to change and the CPM is going to plummet going forward, because yes, reach is going to increase, but also the demand is going to increase. And when we're looking at connected TV, it's still a very scarce and highly premium inventory source, especially when you only look at like the TV apps. Of course, you have like a tons of other apps on connected TV devices as well, into gaming, etc. So guys would mention it. But when we only look at the TV apps, inventory is super scarce. different than in like a programmatic display environment, for example. So usually when the market works there and we have data-driven decisioning involved, it might even be that CPMs could increase over time the more decisioning advertisers can overlay. So this would be good for publishers being able to sell their inventory at a high yield, but also good for buyers, not because it's more expensive, but the performance that they get for that price is even better. So we always recommend not only look at CPM, but also actually look at the ROI, what you actually get out of that channel. And I think connected TV also, and I explore a bit more about that, also when we look at like different KPIs across the things that we have done in programmatic in the past, we've only looked at, I don't know, click-through rate or some other like KPIs like completion rate, for example. You might end up with the same values as before in digital, but when you look at brand lift, and we are trying to explore that, like things more branding-oriented KPIs, bring those into programmatic. This will definitely show that connected TV has also a better brand lift, for example, than other channels. This would then also justify higher CPMs, and it would be a win-win for the entire market.
And so basically, if we look into the usage situation, the user, so the consumer already has done something, right? So it's a bit different than in browsing in the open web on the desktop or on the mobile web, where you are stepping by of a lot of ad slots on your favorite page, but you didn't do something. So and on the CTV, you pressed a button, you entered an app, you intentionally did something when you are confronted with advertising. Is that creating a better situation for higher performance and also then higher prices, which is stable then, or would be stable over time?
So in my opinion, absolutely, because you essentially combine like the impact of TV, where you have like tons of studies in broadcast television, how much it actually is good for your brand and how much branding effect TV advertising still has, because you have this high awareness, big screen impact, and you are in a laid back environment where you're ready to receive ad messages much better, but it combines it with digital precision, targeting, frequency capping, and also usually a much lower ad load than you have on broadcast television. So with your commercial on connected TV, you have even a higher chance that it gets seen and actually recognized by the user. So I believe it's even better than TV. So it's an upgrade to television, and this will also justify the prices.
Can I respond to that?
Sure, of course.
Yeah. So I because I fully agree, and I recently said in a keynote that it ideally it brings together the best of both worlds. So the best of so to say TV, the quality, the laid back experience on one hand, and the possibilities that digital has to offer in relation to targetability and measurability. Maybe one thing to add there is that TV is far more than a mobile or desktop device, is also very much a social device. People watch TV together with their partners, with their kids, with their friends. Okay, there's no social viewing going on right now or public viewing going, but we'll get there at one point, which also adds a very different dimension to this. And I mean, I have had conversations with people who are not working in the advertising industry about TV ads, you know, that they appreciate them, that they laughed about them, that they, I never had that with mobile advertising or desktop advertising. I mean, it does say a lot in the way people are receptive towards CTV advertising.
So, and if I would buy a download of an app on a CTV platform, should I pay a higher price or a lower price than on a mobile device? Just in average.
Is the question going?
Yeah. You're probably into that.
I don't think. I think they are complementary. So I think the TV is still a little bit higher up the funnel, even if it's connected to TV, and can get people enthusiastic about a brand, whereas the actual performance is still, well, that maybe comes via search or via social. Yes, through connected TV, this boundary becomes blurred a little bit, and I am now doing some experiments with clients where you can download a mobile app directly off the CTV screen via a QR code. That is becoming more and more a thing, and then it's obviously direct performance. It's still a little bit of an early call to say whether that should have an impact on the price. What I can say is that maybe, and I'd like to have Sven's opinion on this one, the minimum spend for CTV is still quite high for most buyers. And there, I think it was published last week, an article on Ad Exchanger that called to lower the threshold because it would allow smaller brands to start experimenting with CTV as well. That's something I would strongly advocate. I mean, yes, CPMs can be high because it does bring values that other channels cannot bring. But this minimum spend, I think, yeah, the author on Ad Exchanger, can look up the name if you want, had a very valid point there that it should be accessible for small brands as well. And there should, particularly in this time when there's so much dynamic, there should be room for experimentation.
Leander?
Just to add to this, in the discussions with our customers and their media sales teams, so what we see is that CTV, especially in the HbbTV environment, they reach new small and medium-sized enterprises. And they can go with local ads, and they ask for higher CPM. So we talk here about 150 to 175% premium rate on top of the normal TV CPM, but of course with a lower reach than the total reach of such a channel, because they then go for let's say local franchises. If they have franchises in different areas, then they ask for localized advertisement in these areas, which leads to lower total reach, but a higher CPM is what they ask for from the broadcaster side. And customers value this because you have a lower barrier in order to start with a TV advertisement.
Moving over a bit to the technology side, Leander, you're into server-side ad insertion in general in these environments. Is that more demanding? Are there more threats in that development because there is a lack of standards, or is it basically just another platform? I guess my guess when we got to know each other is that you're taking advantage as a company. You're trying to offer solutions in a domain which is quite complex technology-wise.
Yeah, I mean, the promise is to make it simpler and better, and I still believe in this. But of course, we see in many areas, especially when we integrate with operators, this is not greenfield. And the issues here are more about security topics. So our solution is a cloud-hosted solution, which is not on-prem, which is not in the data center of an operator or of a broadcaster. So we talk more about security topics than we talk about pure ad insertion, manifest manipulation topics. I would say this stuff is working, but the integration into existing systems is what costs a lot of time. And if we talk especially about HbbTV, we are confronted with a large footprint of devices from the last 4, 5, 6 years, where you can say that old standards like HPV 1.0 and 1.1, forget about it to do any ad insertion there, but starting with 1.5 and 2.0, there's a promising footprint. So we're talking about 50 million devices across Europe. So this is definitely worth putting efforts into this. But dealing with all the standards, and it's not only on our side, it's on the streaming playout side where you need to meet different stuff. It's on the codec support on the devices. It's how signaling works correctly. So there's a lot of challenges to overcome. And of course, the better we can standardize it, the faster we can go to market with customers. I mean, we achieve it in the end, but the obstacles in between are sometimes quite disturbing.
Shailley, you have worked a couple of years in this kind of CTV complexity. If you look at the technology side and the demands which you see in the working groups and by talking to companies in that domain, what were the top topics? Is it measurement, basically measurement all through the platforms, or is it already privacy, which is all over the place in the rest of the ecosystem? Can you elaborate a bit on the technology side?
Yeah, I think the top 3 topics that are being discussed is, of course, privacy is discussed in Tech Lab as a separate group that covers everything. So video working group normally doesn't get into details unless more like questions, etc. But these are the 3 topics, like delivery, as Leander was explaining, like that's one of the toughest spots, like how to make sure that your assets, media assets, are properly delivered and are tailored to the device that they're being delivered to. The second is measurement, and the third is privacy. And then after that, it's like targeting and context and content categories, that kind of meta information about the streaming content to inform the advertiser. So on delivery side, like we're working a lot on the SSAI portion of it. And then we are also looking at, there's a whole group within the OpenRTB group actually that's working on the security aspect of it. So authenticating the SSAI ad servers, and they're trying to work on, they're testing right now with the reverse DNS method. That's a pretty time-tested method with emails, etc., so that it's a very lightweight way to identify the SSAI servers to each other for delivery purposes. We also have a small subgroup that's working with the what's called the SCTE here in US, the Society for Telecommunication Engineers. So we're trying to map the digital standards to the older standards that are typically used in the broadcast delivery of everything, and how we can map to that, so that the objective is to make the workflow easier between a converged environment, especially for a broadcaster that's already dealing and that has to deliver on both types of environments. How to make it easier for them to standardize that whole workflow, as well as the assets like the codecs, the ad format, the file format, those kind of details.
Mm-hmm. Any perspective from the others on the European market situation from that angle on technologies?
Well, from the buy side, I can basically just chime in and say standardization is the key word that was mentioned here, which is probably very important, because if you're a programmatic buyer and you want to buy across all of those channels, what you don't want to have is have different silos, or you need to set up different creatives, different strategies across, I don't know, just subsets of devices in a channel like connected TV. So you want to set up a campaign as easily as possible and as overarchingly as possible. So I think the 3 key elements that I would focus on in connected TV and to drive this market forward is A, consent. So because without that, we can't do like much on connected TV anyhow. So we need to have ways to actually get GDPR consent on connected TV devices. B is identity. This is not only about like having, of course, the standard of device identifiers. I mean, we've lived in a very easy world with third-party cookies and mobile device identifiers in the past. Now it's a much more fragmented space with all the smart TVs, Chromecast, Fire TV, and also HPB TV, and everyone has different identifiers. And even though this would already be complicated enough, then publishers also often or sometimes choose not to pass the standard device identifier as well in the bid request. So this makes it super complicated for buyers to just like do simple things as frequency capping across publishers and devices, but also audience targeting then gets an entire mess. And the third thing is certainly measurement. So things like viewability, where we have now, which was mentioned earlier already with the OM SDK for connected TV, will be also vital for a couple of buyers to just be able to also measure viewability as they're used to in other channels.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can jump on the measurement tail there, because obviously that's our bread and butter. So in my experience, the discussions we had in both in Europe and in the US regarding these topics, their privacy is as big as a concern in both regions. And it's we're always looking for compromises between consent, respecting consumer privacy on the one hand, and being able to attribute and in the end guarantee a fair economic exchange between the publisher and the advertiser. So I don't see a huge difference there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so even if the as it is like that the ecosystem on CTV and the different platforms is not as developed by means of tracking as it is on the desktop and the mobile web, the threats are the same. That's what you say. Okay.
Yeah, I think that is, and it's a huge concern of for example, players such as Hulu and Roku. It's not only about privacy, it's also about competition. What they're afraid of is that their data or the data of their consumers can be used to retarget users via cheaper channels, which is a very justified concern. And we're looking, obviously, we need to build our measurement technology in a way that prevents that from happening, because it's privacy unfriendly and it's damaging for the business, the publisher's business in this case, players such as Roku and Hulu.
Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit also complicated, like in CTV. This is when we're discussing privacy on CTV. So I'm looking at my Samsung TV with a Roku app inside it, and an NBC or an ABC channel playing inside that. So like there are three entities now involved, and who manages and owns the privacy for me as a consumer there.
Yeah.
So it's more complicated than your typical desktop browser experience or a device OS experience.
Yeah. Mm. To make it a little bit more complicated, now that we're already our brains cooking, here the social element also comes into play, because in desktop advertising, in mobile advertising, you can be pretty sure that the person seeing the ad is also the person is the owner of the device on which the response to the ad takes place. With TV, you don't have that security anymore. I mean, my son might watch might see an ad on TV, respond to it, but obviously the TV is strongly associated with me. I mean, I paid for it, so if there are some IDs coming out, then it will probably be directed towards me. And whereas here the person consuming the ad and interacting with the product eventually is a different one. So that makes it even more challenging in terms of measurement, and also obviously in terms of privacy.
We see this also in the discussion with broadcasters and operators, that they try to understand how a household consists, what kind of persons live in a household. And that's exactly what Gijsbert said. Who's watching now? The father, the kids, the mother, trying to get this out of usage pattern. So there's interesting development to find this out with different approaches, panel-wise, AI-wise, to have a better understanding of the profile who's watching. This is one topic, but where we also see an interesting clash of interest is when we do CTV and HBB TV, we have real-time measurement of not only the advertisement quartiles and beacons, but also of the channel usage itself. And then it's interesting how this compares to the panels like the GfK here in Germany, how you interpret these numbers, the market analysis, with the real-time net reach that we currently have there. And you see differences, especially when we talk about tier 2, tier 3 broadcasters who are doing streaming. They suddenly have numbers and who are meaningful. And if they look in the panel, they are under 1%, so they are not attractive for the advertisement, for the demand side. But suddenly this becomes an interesting target group. And this is interesting to follow. We are not directly involved as a technology provider, but we see how these discussions also become political.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'd like to round this up. We have only 5 minutes to go. If you would indicate the largest technology threat which we currently have, the largest problem which we have to solve to push the market development, what would be your take on that? What would be your, just not 1 minute elevator pitch, but 2 sentences elevator pitch? What has to be solved? Who wants to start?
So for us, we are more in delivery. We deal with incompatible devices. We deal with non-matching streaming standards and wrong requirements. So bringing stakeholders or aligning stakeholders in this regard would save us time to for all parties involved earning money earlier. So this standardization topic, I think, is quite important to drive this.
So my take would be that we need to establish a fair economic exchange by means of measurement between publishers and the advertisers, also in the CTV space, while respecting user privacy. That's basically it, and that's a huge challenge. That is going to be very difficult.
Mm-hmm. Sven?
I would Gijsbert basically mentioned it. It's I would say identity, which is the foundation of so many things, and it needs to be privacy compliant, and it needs to be ideal across device, because that's going to drive value for connected TV. And for a vibrant and fair and open TV marketplace as well. So we need to have everyone participating in there, and to find a standard that's privacy compliant, also protects data of both the buy side but also the sell side. And all of this is basically targeted at preventing further silos or walled gardens or etc. like that, because this is all going to be at the disadvantage of a fair, open market, and it will only benefit the big global walled gardens in the end.
Mm-hmm. Shailley, what's the biggest problem you'd like to solve this year in CTV?
Adoption of standards. That's kind of our job to make sure that one, we are building the right standards that are needed. So we kind of need all your participation in our working groups to make sure we are informed and we're working towards that. And of course, to get the adoption going, to make sure that the industry is able to make use of those foundational technologies that are required.
Okay, thank you all. So actually, I can't add anything to that. So it's great to have these insights. Actually, Apple's IDFA change made me a mobile gamer a couple of weeks ago, because I download like 20 or 30 mobile games, which I never did before, to check out for ATT prompts. So likely this discussion leads me to use actually my remote to install some apps on my Samsung TV, even more than in the past, because I actually usually, up to now, this was my interaction device, interacting with TV. But that was great to hear the different perspectives. And Hakeem, do you want to add anything, or can we close otherwise? Really?
Yeah, just usual as always. Thank you for joining. Of course, thanks to all the panelists that were with us today. Great to have you. And don't forget to join our other European communication groups, brand safety and ad fraud, and ad experience measurement and attribution. And also, if you're interested to join any of the working groups and you're not quite sure where your knowledge is needed, just shoot us an email. We will forward you to the right communication, to the right working group. That's all I have to add.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks.